So today we are going to discuss the involvement of citizens in community heating projects. This webinar is organized by RescoPU and Energy Cities. The idea is that we created the program based on municipalities that are the main audience for us as Energy Cities. And in this case, RescoPU is also really focused on how we can bring citizens in community heating projects where the municipalities are more like in charge, let's say. And we know that heating and cooling accounts for a very, very big proportion of emissions in cities. And at the same time, heating and cooling, it's a very complex issues for cities, but also it's a very difficult topic for citizens. And that's why community heating projects, they have to deal with much more hurdles than other projects that are related, for example, to PV on electricity production overall. And so, yes, that's why we are doing this webinar. We want to discuss this and provide also some interesting tools for cities who want to develop community heating projects. And I'm very happy to have some interesting speakers for you today. First, I just want to give you a quick overview of the agenda before I pass them the floor. I give them the floor. And so we will start with the presentation from my colleagues, Nicolas and Alison. They will talk about supporting the implementation of key European legislation on heating and cooling and what is the role of municipalities. Then we give the floor to Felix from RescoPU that will discuss how to include citizens in heating and cooling planning and also present some new publications that was just released by RescoPU. And now we go to see experiences from the ground. And on this, I have the pleasure of having with us today Anne-Marie Swanik from the city of Utrecht and Rania Milona from the energy community of Karditsa. We will have some time at the end for the Q&A. Of course, while the colleagues are speaking, you're very welcome to write your questions in the chat. Just be aware that we will take them all at the end. Of course, you can also raise your hand and ask the questions live if it's what you want to do. And we try to avoid the answering of the questions directly in the chat because this webinar is recorded and people that will listen to it later might be interested as well in hearing the answers to your questions. So yeah, without further ado, I give the floor to Nicolas, who is Policy and Project Management Manager for Energy Cities, and then complementing his presentation, there will be Alison, who is not only Communication Officer for Energy Cities, but she's also the coordinator of the communication for the Covenant of Mayors Europe. Nicolas, you have the floor.
Thank you. I'll share my screen.
You can have your sound.
Okay, well, thank you, Sarah, for the kind introduction. So I will be talking about one of the projects that is also involved in heating and cooling. It's called Ready for Heat. So I have 10 minutes to present the project. I will not have the time to go into all details, but I will do my best to give you some hint and to invite you to go and have a look at the projects. So I was also introducing Ready for Heat, which is a European project co-funded in the context of the LIFE program with more or less 5 to 8 countries involved in the project. And the objective is really to work on the implementation of heating and cooling policies at European level. The project has started 2 years ago, and we have 1 more year to go in the project. So
how do we do it in the project? Where we unfold the project in 3 different aspects. First of all, we did look at the policy framework in the European Union, both in the 27 member states, but also more specifically in the 5 focus countries, where we did an assessment of the NECP. We look at how NECPs already tackled the issue of cooling and heating or if they're not doing it, how they could do it.
You can have a look online on the website of Ready4Heat, of knowledge sharing platform. You can find different resources and tools, and I will show them afterwards. And of course, we also organize capacity building events to build on the resources that we drafted on the policy framework, also on building on strategic policy priorities to build capacities at national level, but also on the local authority. So that's the main outline of the project. But one of the work was to do an analysis of the policy framework at EU level. So we published on our website also a great poster that you can look at, which unfolds actually the main regulatory framework for heating and cooling, looking at the Energy Efficiency Directive, the Energy Performance of Building Directive, the Renewable Energy Directive, all those directives that were revised recently. And we try to identify how they could impact heating and cooling policy and what could be of interest for national authorities and local authorities. But it's not the only three pieces of legislation to look at. There's also other elements, such as in the ETS, in the gas package, etc., etc. So next one again. So I was talking about the policy framework. So in Ready4Heat, we looked at the policy framework here, unfolding actually the three main pieces of legislation in the revision of the Energy Directive that were recently revised. And you can find this nice poster on the website of Ready4Heat, and I invite you to have a look at it to find the most updated policy framework for heating and cooling. But it's not the main objective of today, because what we want to do today is really to focus on the implementation of heating and cooling policy and also showcasing local authority. So next, please. In Ready4Heat, we also developed a deliverable looking at heating and cooling policies at European level, because most of Europeans actually live in cities. And we know that with the revision of the Energy Efficiency Directive, now cities above 45,000 inhabitants must draft heating and cooling plans. So next, please, twice. In this deliverable, we looked at 5 case studies at city level and presented some of the front-running cities in developing heating and cooling projects. And now we'll briefly just present the case of Valencia and Rotterdam. I won't have the time to go in detail because we have also 2 great presenters, but if you want to have more information, have a look at this deliverable. Next, please. So in Valencia, we see that in Valencia, the city of Valencia in Spain is already engaged in some quite ambitious planning for heating and cooling, and mostly for reaching climate neutrality by 2050. Valencia is already one of the 100 climate neutral smart cities mission. There are also part of the Covenant of Mayors. They have their own sustainable energy and climate action plan, and they really want to focus their work on the right to energy and also to fight energy poverty. To do so, what's interesting, next please, is that they want to focus on energy communities as driver for the transition. Not only on energy communities to work on the electrification of the network, but also on energy communities to develop heating projects. And to do that, what's interesting is that, next please, is that they work on a really interesting governance structure involving actually both civil society, but also citizens, the city of Valencia, businesses, media, university, in different working groups to make sure that they would bring together all relevant stakeholders to create a better ownership, create a better momentum, next please, and so to better involve everyone in the process. And actually it worked well, and Valencia is one of the cities that has developed an interesting project on energy communities, not only on electricity, but also on heat. So I invite you to have a look at this study case. And the other one is also on the Netherlands side, because in the Netherlands, we know that the ambition to phase out fossil fuel is even stronger, because the Netherlands has already adopted a legal framework at national level to phase out gas at the national level, but also has supported cities in drafting alternatives and planning. And the city of Rotterdam itself has not worked like Valencia on energy community per se, but they've decided to take another angle, looking at the neighborhood approach. And the neighborhood approach is actually quite similar as well, because it's about bringing together all relevant stakeholders. Should it be also citizens, housing associations, businesses, energy suppliers, utilities, etc. And the city of Rotterdam, next please, did so, for example, in mapping their heating and cooling potential. They drafted two maps, what they call the what map and the when map, looking at the best alternative for renewable energy, also looking at the social cost that would be embedded in those solutions. And they started to have the discussion also with citizens to pick the best available options. And from that case, they were able to involve citizens and to create better ownership of the solution. So Rotterdam is also a great example on how to better integrate citizens in the heating project. Next, please. Those two examples are only two that we did in one of the findings of the project, but actually because we drafted different policy recommendations, we also did interviews with different cities, stakeholders. We also shared some stories from cities, but also regions working on the heat transitions. What I can invite you to do is to connect on the website of Ready for Heat, where we have developed a knowledge sharing platform. And on that website, you can find different resources to either learn from project, but also to find the latest piece of legislation at EU level, to also get inspired by other stories from cities and national authorities, but also to find tools that could be applicable to your project to build on this project. And actually, one of the tools that is referred in the toolbox is one of the tools that is developed by Rescoop, and that will be presented by my next colleague after, by Felix. And hopefully with this presentation, we'll also be able to better use the tool and to apply it to your own case studies. Next, please. Towards. Ready for Heat is still ongoing with one more year of the project. And at the moment, we're organizing different capacity building events at national and EU level. So if you are interested in the project and you live either in Portugal, Germany, Greece, Croatia, or Poland, you can also register to the newsletter of the project and you will be invited to join different workshops. Those workshops are aiming at building capacity at local authorities, but also national authorities on heating and cooling. So that's in a nutshell the project Ready for Heat, and I'm really interested to hear about the Felix presentation, but also the two other presenters about concrete example at local level. Thank you. And I will hand over to Alison, who is my colleague working for the Covenant of Mayors and will present the detox campaign. Alison, please.
Thank you, Nicolas. Hi, everybody. So I'm Alison. I work for the Covenant of Energy Cities and the Covenant of Mayors Europe. So I'm just going to briefly present our campaign, the Cities Heat Detox. For those who don't know the Covenant of Mayors, quickly also, we bring together over 10,000 cities and towns committed to the EU's climate and energy targets. Our campaigns are really about raising awareness and involving cities around very specific policy priorities for the EU and for the local level. So this year we launched a campaign in June, which will last until mid next year, also around June next year, on decarbonization of heating and cooling, the city's heat detox. Now, I don't know when you think of a detox what you think of, but the idea is healthy drinks that mixes nutritive and healthy ingredients for you to refresh, rejuvenate, to reset and start from zero. And we thought that also cities heating systems that mostly rely on fossil fuels also need this kind of detox to rejuvenate and refresh and be healthier. So why do we need to detox our heat? First, to improve air quality and health. Also to support more efficient, energy efficient, modern and circular economy. So to have a stronger economy as we would detox to be stronger and as a person also when people do detoxes. And then also for stronger communities as we ensure energy security and a just transition moving towards cleaner sources of heat. So you can move to the next slide, Sarah. The city's heat detox is mostly raising awareness around what cities can do, of course, for detoxing their heat and for this refreshing, rejuvenating effect. So, of course, starting by knowing what you're putting in your heating systems already, what's toxic, and how you can change it. So, heat planning, that links a lot to what Nicolas was talking about. So the campaign's very much raising awareness around the different opportunities, resources, including the Ready for Heat projects, resources on heat planning. The second step is kind of going for a full city detox, so where cities can have a bigger impact, is renovating, expanding, and developing district heating. So that's where also community heating projects can be very important in making these things happen, and where we'll hear some inspiring examples. And the third, of course, sorry, you can go to the next slide, is on really feeding your heating systems with clean sources of heat. Now, this looks different for every city, so each city's detox will look different. And the campaign is an opportunity for you from your city to put together your ideal detox, what that would look like, how your healthy city would look like with the different clean sources of heat, the different ingredients, and the different methods that are available. So we have this fun interactive tool where you can just kind of put together your city's heat detox and showcase it. So next slide. The idea, because the idea really of this campaign is about sharing good practices, it's about inspiring, it's about bringing together everyone's voices to say, to show what cities and what we're doing at local level to detox heat. So there's different ways that you can join the campaign and bring visibility to this at EU level. First, applying to the Covenant Award, because beyond if you win or not, if you apply for the award, which is this year, it's focused on the detox campaign, so on the decarbonizing of heating and cooling. You can still get showcased on our campaign website. We have a map with a lot of different inspiring examples from across Europe, and there's a chance that even if you don't win, you'll get showcased on our map. If not, if you don't want to apply for an award, you can just submit your story. There's also a template you can fill out that's pretty simple, describing your project. And then you can showcase your detox with these different elements that I presented, the different interactive kind of detox mix, and using our social media materials that we have available. Additionally, to also just general social media materials about the importance of decarbonizing heating and cooling and moving away from fossil fuels. And there's also the option of sending a video message from a mayor, an elected representative, on why it's important to detox heat, your city's heat, and what your city is doing. So those are the different ways of getting involved. Sorry, next slide. And this is just the last one, call to action. So even if you aren't a city, but you're still interested, you can subscribe to the campaign. As I said, explore our map, and of course, share your story, visit our website, and follow us on social media. Thank you.
Thank you, Alison. I will now give the floor to Felix.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you share your screen? And remember to click the presentation mode so that everyone can see.
Oh, here we go. Right, can you see it?
Yes.
All right, perfect. Great. Then let's get cracking. I first, as a bit of a disclosure, I am sick, so do bear in mind and apologize if I'm a bit nasal and nebulous. But anyway, let's get into it. Indeed, my name is Felix, and I work for Risk Co-op. And I will be looking today, together with you guys, of course, into how to engage citizens in the heating and cooling planning, right? So in order to do this, that's a little cartoon of me right there. In order to do this, we will look into energy communities, of course, essentially the core of community-led heating and cooling. So we look into energy communities and the benefits, just in case you may not be familiar with them. And then we go into the heating and cooling planning and legislation, and a couple of examples, finally, of community-led heating and cooling in the EU. And indeed, much like the Ready for Heat tool that was showed before, I will also show a bit of a tool that we produced. So, what is an energy community? Well, to those who might not know it, essentially, it's citizens coming together that oftentimes also includes the municipality and SMEs in order to do renewable energy projects, right, for the transition. Now, to make a long story short, of course, the legal entity of an energy community is not important per se. What is important is the governance of it, right, which follows certain principles that it has in common with cooperatives. Of course, cooperatives go as far back as human civilization, really, right? I mean, this need of people to come together and help each other for an interest that is not profit is ancient, right? If we go into the English-speaking world, the first cooperatives were in the 1700s, and for district heating specifically, so not cooperatives, but district heating, goes back, although as far as we know, to the times of Pompeii, right, in the Roman Empire, where they had tubes going underneath the homes in order to heat their homes with the volcanic water, essentially. So this is just to say that all of these things are not new, right? What is an innovation, nevertheless, of course, is applying these two together, right? So energy communities together with the heating and cooling. As you can see here, I wanted to show a bit what the business model is usually of an energy community and what benefits it has. Uh, Essentially, the benefits are, of course, that the revenues stay at the local level, because if you produce more energy than you consume, then you can sell this energy and reinvest this money in the local community. You have to do this, of course, because you are not allowed to have profit. So this means that they renovate kindergartens, that they help the vulnerable households with the transition to renewable energies. They organize renewable energy festivals, much like the colleagues in ESSEC that you will see later. They have some lovely examples actually of how they reinvested the money. So the revenues stay at the local level. As you can imagine, since the citizens, right, are in the driving seat with the municipality, of course, you can imagine that there's democratic ownership of it, right? Which also means that there are more benefits for the local community and public acceptance. Obviously, if you yourself are the owner of this system, of this district heating system or of the heating installation, then you tend to trust it more because you have transparency on it. You decide together, again, with SMEs, with your fellow neighbors, and with the municipality what to do with the project. Uh, I won't stay too long on this either, because this is legislation, which I'm sure it's not fascinating. I mean, of course it is to me, but here's just to say that the concept of energy communities in EU legislation goes back to 2019, but since then, in the clean energy package, but since then, we have the Fit for 55 that has opened the door to many more activities, right, by energy communities. So this includes renovations, energy savings, heating and cooling, as we will present here, offshore wind even. So with this slide, I just wanted to show to all of you that contrary to what some people believe, actually, these projects, these bottom-up initiatives, right, of energy communities can do quite a bit of things at the end of the day. Now, if we go into the nitty-gritty of the legislation, especially for planning, well, essentially, as you may know already, because Energy Cities has done an excellent job of this, especially with their map. But the Energy Efficiency Directive says that if you have more than 45,000 inhabitants as a municipality, you have to carry out a heating and cooling plan. What you may not know is that it does go a bit further than that, and it mentions that at least this plan has to, of course, take into account the common needs of the local communities and to assess the role of energy communities, right? In the Renewable Energy Directive that you can see in the corner, we have something a bit similar, right? That speaks of participation of the local communities and specifically for district heating, funnily enough. It does mention that it should be taking into account, in particular, the role of energy communities in developing district heating. The message that I want to pass on with this is that essentially our national governments, the European Parliament and the Commission, are encouraging all of us, right, to look into these bottom-up initiatives to fill our local heating and cooling needs, right? As to the reasons why, I explained some of them before, but essentially you can imagine them, right? So local solutions, of course, to local needs, and beyond that, they are very long-lasting because the citizens are not really going anywhere. So in our research that we didn't actually find any cases of bankruptcy of community-led heating and cooling initiatives. So without further ado, I will of course go into some of the examples in the hope, of course, that this legal information helps you in developing these plans and you can use this in order to develop them together with the citizens in your local area. So I'll present one example in the Netherlands, one in Denmark, and one in Ireland, right? The one in the Netherlands is in Amsterdam in a district called Middenmeer, which I'm probably not pronouncing right. But the important thing here is that we can see a collaboration between the energy community, Mer Energie, the municipality, and the infrastructure operator, right? So essentially, this is one of the ways that you can do it, in which you cooperate with the energy community. And in this particular case, the energy that they take for the district heating system is from a from a waste heat from a data center. Also, the important thing that I want to transmit with this is that involving citizens in the process cannot be a box ticking exercise, because you risk running into the problem that you might have the opposite effects of what you want, right? So this needs to be an open conversation with them in order to see what needs they have and see how you can collaborate in order to fill these needs. In Denmark, I also used an example from a data center. But here it is different, right? The SME in question that owns the data center is part of the energy community. And this is another thing that I wanted to highlight, that there are many things that the municipality can of course take part in this. One of them is to cooperate with the energy community, like in the Netherlands, like in the case of the Netherlands before. Another one here is where you can become part of the energy community as a municipality. Now, this of course also means that you have a better overview of what is happening. The important thing here, of course, is that it enhances energy democracy. It's cheaper bills for the citizens as well, and overall, it reinforces the social economy, right? And since I've given 2 examples of district heating, I wanted to leave the last one for heat pumps, because this is also something that energy communities can do, right? And here I'm using the example of Ecovision in Ireland, where they actually specialize. The energy community Ecovision specializes in renovations. So they have renovated for over 10 years now. They have renovated way more than 900 homes, with 10 gigawatts of energy savings a year, which is massive. And in many cases, they also decided to install a heat pump in the systems. And in practice, this meant that the neighbors, in some occasions, didn't have to pay any energy bills, right? Because how well insulated the homes were and how performant they were. In this particular case, I really like, because you can see the intergenerational aspect of these energy communities as well, right? Here we have the case of Maura Ryan, who renovated her home and they installed the heat pump, and she's explaining to her grandkid what the heat pump does. And mind you, like you can see from the text, that not that long ago they were running on a wood stove. So again, this is an example of again community-led heating and cooling as well, right? Of course, Ecovision depends a lot on municipal funds in order to do their work. And with that in mind, I will slowly finish by leaving you this, which, as Sarah mentioned before, indeed, today we're happy to say that we have published a toolkit that we hope will help both energy communities, municipalities, to develop community-led heating and cooling. So in this tool, which is research that we've done over the past 2 years, in this tool, we explain everything from what energy communities are to how you can start your business model, what other organizations you can bring on board, such as social housing, again, the municipality or SMEs, where to find finances or the business model, and see examples of what other energy communities have done in the past. And I leave you as well with here some more links that, of course, you can look at later. Happy to have the presentation shared, of course. If I can leave you with anything at the end of all of this, is the same as at the beginning, which is that if we want this transition to work and to be long lasting and to have social acceptance, we all need to work together, right? Energy communities, citizens, and of course municipalities, because at the end of the day, it is a perfect match. What is more natural than the citizens coming together with their municipality? So with this, I leave you to the next presentations, and I look forward to the questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Felix. You already gave some answer to a question that was in the chat about the different technology and what is best to choose. So I guess, Anna, you can have a look at that link that Felix shared. But then we can also discuss more about your question on the best technology for heating and cooling in the Q&A. So I give you the floor now to Anne-Marie from the city of Utrecht.
Good morning, glad to be here. Like Felix, also with quite a bad cold, so if I feel like coughing and everything, I will put myself on silence, but I hope it will not happen in the next 15 minutes. I will do my best. I will first start to share my presentation. Let's see if this works. Let's go to the first slide. I'm not going to do it in presentation mode because I don't have two screens available. So this will be the size it will stay, but I will tell you all the information. And this is more like an illustration. But do you see the presentation?
Yes, we do.
Ah, lovely.
Yep.
Then I'll start. So my name is Annemarie Zwanink. I work for the municipality of Utrecht. I work on energy communities and how to involve residents in the electricity and heat transition. And good to see also today that there's a growing interest on energy communities. I think it's a great opportunity to democratize electricity and heat. So I think it's a good path to go. I will give you a short presentation on a hackathon we did in Utrecht. And in a hackathon, you work on solutions for a subject in a limited time. And the hackathon is called Expedition Warmth. I'll go to the next slide. Here we go. Yes, so Utrecht is a densely built up area. We have little space for renewable energy production, unfortunately. We also have little industry with residual heat, like data center. And at the same time, residents are knocking on our door to start small district heating networks based on local sources, which of course we applaud that. But this led us to the question: how can we use local low temperature sources like water, air, geothermal, residual heat in a sustainable and affordable way for local heating networks? And what does this require from local stakeholders? In going forward on those questions, we determined 3 challenges. And the first challenge is that heat transition is, of course, a complex matter that requires a necessary technical and financial knowledge. And there are also several factors and challenges that come into play, such as the subsoil, which is really, really crowded, ecological aspects, distribution of scarce resources, which I told you on before, legal and governance challenges, and the cooperation between government and resident cooperatives, something we are up till now less adept at than government business cooperation. The second challenge is residents have limited time, of course, and they are talented people and they work and they have families, and so they cannot put full-time their time into in their cooperative, which is completely understandable. And the third challenge is how can we involve the knowledge of organizations and companies so we have the whole playing field in our energy communities. So I will tell you a bit more about Expedition Warmth. That's the next slide. So we formed 5 teams of citizen cooperatives, businesses, and people of the municipality to design a local heating system based on local renewable sources. On the slide, you see the map of Utrecht and a few colored dots. That's the areas where the citizen cooperatives were. And there was a nice palette of different backgrounds. So there is a neighborhood where there are more homeowners associations involved. In the other one, there were more, how do you call that? The social housing corporations involved. So we had 5 totally different neighborhoods and 5 totally different businesses that were teamed up with the civic corporations. So they teamed up, and the 5 teams had to come up with the best possible form for local heating network based on a local source. So in the expedition, we offered several workshops, for example, on governance, on technology, on cooperative development. Yes, and additionally, we offered drawing table sessions, so we could work together on the possible design. In a matter of weeks, so about a few months, this in stages came to a complete plan. And the final plan was presented to a jury of experts. And the 3 best designs received a cash prize to further develop their plan. Go to the next slide. Going forward in the expedition, we saw that influence and ownership is one of the main topics. It's of course the main reason for citizens to get involved in a citizen cooperative. And so one of the forms of influence could be ownership. And we see that the one cooperative is interested in being owner of the grid and the other one is not interested. It's a big thing to be a co-owner. So we see difference in goals for the organizations, for the cooperatives. How to organize influence of citizens and cooperatives in the heating system and in basic service as heat is still in Utrecht, and I think in a lot of places still work in progress. So we don't have the final answer to that. We are fully working on that subject. Well, we made a good start in Expedition Warmth, and it's good to see 2 years later that there's 3 robust citizen cooperatives have emerged from Expedition Warmth, and are still working to further develop the governance models, which I talked to before, and the influence, and their integrated local heating grid, which includes cooling, electricity, and storage. Go to the next slide. I don't know if you hear a cat. There's a cat here that's quite enthusiastic. You could hear it, maybe. I don't know. I hope it's not too much of a nuisance. But moving forward, we are working in the circle which you see now, which is the civil, the public, and the private sides of the energy and the warmth playing field, and of course the research and knowledge institutions. We work together, all of them together, in energy communities, and we hope to achieve energy grids based on the 5 principles, which is 100% renewable, accessible to everyone, based on local ownership, on cooperation, but also very important that it's safe and reliable, and that it's all also the storage locally integrated. 2 more slides to go, then I'm finished. We now did apply for an Interreg grant under the name E2QDs. And E2QDs means engaged energy communities with integrated energy system. This holds 6 pilot projects to have an integrated local energy community with the city of Utrecht, Dublin, Leuven, and Strasbourg. And there's an extra focus on what it will take for the civil cooperative to establish a good and durable role in that playing field. So in December we hear if we get the grant, and then we move forward with 6 beautiful pilots. That brings me to my last slide, and I know I see the time I'm through the time, so maybe if there's a question you could save it to the end, or maybe I have time for it now. I don't know. I will hear it from Sarah.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. I think we can keep all the questions at the end, and the ones that are coming through the chat, I'm recording them and I put them aside so that we don't forget. So feel free to ask questions to Anne-Marie in the chat already. Thank you, Marie. So now it's your turn, Rania. Rania is a member of the energy community of Karditsa in Greece. You have the floor, Rania.
Thank you very much for the organizers for inviting us here today. It's a real honor to be a part of this event and to share the work we've been doing in the energy community of Karditsa. I appreciate the opportunity to discuss our efforts in turning local residual biomass into energy and creating a sustainable value chain that involves many of our community stakeholders. Sarah, if you can change, thank you. Click twice again, thank you. Let me introduce myself. I am a proud member of the energy community of Karditsa, located in central Greece in the region of Thessaly. Karditsa is a small town, and unlike other parts of Greece, we are far from the sea. Despite our inland location, we've turned the lack of maritime advantages into a strong connection with our land and natural resources. If you take a look at the geophysical map of Karditsa prefecture, you will see that our landscape is neatly divided. On one side, we have vast flatlands rich in agricultural crops, and on the other, we have mountainous areas covered in forests. Both of these play a critical role in our approach to energy production. Next slide, please. Yes, thank you. Before diving into the specifics of our activities, let me tell you a bit about who we are. We are a cooperative made up of almost 400 members, including 6 municipalities, NGOs, small and medium enterprises, and everyday citizens. As a cooperative, we follow the 7 cooperative principles, especially focusing on tackling energy poverty through democratic means. Every member has 1 vote, whether they are a municipality, a business, or individual. Next slide. Even though we are in sunny Greece, where photovoltaic parks would make sense, our focus has primarily been on biomass. Why biomass? Because, as I mentioned earlier, we have access to significant amounts of residual biomass from our agricultural and forest areas, and we believe this offers a more locally rooted solution. Next slide. Biomass is produced and converted to energy right here in Karditsa, and this not only helps meet our energy and heating demands, but also generates jobs, strengthens community resilience, and engages local actors across the value chain. Next slide. In this slide, you can see the potential biomass resources in Karditsa. We are blessed with a variety of agricultural crops like cotton and maize, extensive forest areas, wood processing industries, and municipal waste biomass. Importantly, we are not looking to alter crops or cut down trees. We are focused on utilizing the residual biomass left after the harvest and the other natural processes. This resource has significant potential. Next slide. In 2010, a group of visionary pioneers in our community had an idea to empower citizens by taking energy production into their own hands. Their goal was to generate economic, social, and environmental benefits. By 2016, construction of our biomass plant began, and by 2017, our facilities were operational. Since then, we've been processing and standardizing biomass into high-quality pellets. Next slide. As you can see, we now have all the necessary equipment to process this residual biomass into refined solid biofuels, specifically pellets. Next slide. One key point to mention is that the electricity required to produce these pellets is sourced from renewables, particularly wind power. This means we are producing green pellets with green power, a truly sustainable cycle. Next slide, please. Here, in the middle of this slide, is a sketch drawn by the original members of our cooperative on a piece of paper. On either side, you can see how this vision has become a reality, showcasing the value chain we've developed over the years. Next slide. Thank you. Click twice. Thank you. We started with biomass from agriculture and the wood processing industries, and through European projects, we've expanded both our activities and our end users. Next slide. Thank you. We've even managed to engage local citizens through biomass. They interact with everyday like coffee grounds. After carefully mapping out the various biomass resources in our area, we created a roadmap for future activities. Next slide, please. We've partnered with local municipalities to utilize city tree prunings and with coffee shops and residents to collect coffee grounds, turning them into energy. The mountain municipalities and forest cooperatives are also involved, helping to manage the residual forest biomass, which has the added benefit of reducing fire hazards. Next slide, please. All of this biomass is processed at our facilities, and we then distribute it within the local community. In some cases, we act as an energy service company, an ESCO, providing direct heat to end users. But we are not just producing pellets, we are engaging our community. Next slide, please. We conduct awareness campaigns, host information days, and even organize festivals to spread the message of the circular economy. A fun fact, we've recorded that Karditsa alone produces around 600 tons of coffee residue per year. And if we could fully harness that, it could save the municipality about 4,000 euros annually. This is just one example of how we are working to bring the circular economy closer to our citizens. Next slide, please. One particularly proud achievement is our work with a local school. We replaced its old oil boiler with a biomass boiler powered by pellets produced from local residual biomass. After 3 years, the results are clear. Not only is it a greener solution, but it's also cheaper compared to fossil fuels like oil or gas. And then next slide. Thank you. While biomass is our main focus, we haven't forgotten about solar energy. In collaboration with Greenpeace, we have launched a project called Free Solar. Thanks to this initiative, 7 households in our community are now enjoying free electricity for the next 25 years. And two last slides. Thank you. In the future, we aim to scale this up, creating larger photovoltaic parks and using virtual net metering to provide free electricity to all our members. And for the last, thank you for your for listening me.
Thank you, Rania. Thanks very much. So now we have a bit of time for questions, like half an hour, actually, quite a lot of time. I collected some questions during the previous presentation, and if that's okay, I will take them in chronological order. I will start with the first one. A second. So one question that was asked is if any of you have developed some tools to analyze which is the best technology to develop a district heating and cooling, depending on the energy consumption of the building, the climate prediction, or the urban characteristic. Felix already shared some information about the community platform, but maybe you want to say something more? Of course, the other speakers are welcome to raise their hands if they have an answer to this question.
I think it's a good question. I mean, what do you use, right? I'm afraid that the answer will not be what you look for, because from what we saw at the end, the best solution is to just look in your backyard, so to say, right? I mean, from the examples that we saw, it wasn't as a good idea to already have a technology in mind and pursue that, but rather to start by seeing what you have in your local area and building on that. In the same way that ESSEC lives in a foresty area, so prunings make sense. Others they did a technical analysis and they have geothermal energy, so that made more sense. Solar thermal, of course, is a no regret option as well. But it depends on your very specific geographical area. So what we recommend is to start with a technical analysis, of course, and then to build on that.
And for information, there have been some tools developed in the past to support cities to do this technical analysis. There are many European projects that have done that. I only have one in mind because Energy Cities was a partner, but it was called Hot Maps, and they developed this tool that allowed the mapping of the resources overall in all Europe. There were already some data, but in the tool itself, in the database of the tool, but there was also this option of inserting your own data in the tool. It was an online platform. But I'm sure this was already some years ago. I'm sure in the meantime there must be more tools like that I invite you to have a look. Another question here. A big challenge for heat cooperatives in Germany is that they're mostly operated by retired people who have more time to commit to such big projects. They struggle to get the next generations involved and worry about the future of their cooperatives. How can we support their long-term planning on a decade scale? Who wants to take that? Yes, Felix.
Right. Indeed. So, I mean, the example comes to mind of what Rania was saying with ESSEC, right? I know that for instance they organize renewable. I think Vasilis from ESSEC told me that they organized. Who I saw somewhere on the call as well. They organize renewable energy festivals, right? So that people get to know what it is. I think they organize screenings in summer as well of documentaries that are about renewable energy and about community approaches. So that could be a solution. I'm afraid that at the end of the day, what helps best is to put in the work, sadly, right? I mean, going from door to door, explaining to people with patience, right, what the situation is, because at the end of the day, people, of course, are a bit weary, right? I mean, if somebody comes knocking on my door, I would think that they're trying to sell me something. So it is important to try to avoid that, right? You want to build a relationship with these people first before you move on. But I'm happy to hear all the thoughts.
Yeah, Marie?
Yeah, but I just had a investigation for the municipality. How do we involve young people in energy transition overall? Because it's a challenge on many levels. It's a challenging subject, and what most young people said, well, it involves us in a stage where there's designing and exploration and that kind of work to do, and not at the end when you have figured out a plan and then come to young people like, how can we involve you? So do it in an early stage, make it as challenging questions, involve schools, and make it maybe like a hackathon form, like in a short amount of time on a good practical question, because they want to get into it and work on it together. So I thought that was a really enlightening input we got from young people in Utrecht. So that's what I wanted to add.
Thank you, Marie. Indeed, your hackathon, it's a very good example of engaging citizens of all ages. So not just old people that have a lot of time, but younger as well. If it can help, there are also serious games that have been a good tool for some energy communities to involve younger generation. So there are really already quite a bit of opportunities. So next question. What do you think are the main challenges for community district heating? Do you think that there is a real potential for community district heating in the EU? Maybe Felix, you want to take this?
Yeah, absolutely. Also a good question, because at the end of the day, nothing is perfect. I mean, of course, energy communities are a solution to the problem. Let's see, barriers that they have. I mean, the price is an issue, right? District heating also, especially district heating, it's quite expensive. And the thing that we have seen the most in terms of financing for this is 1/3 comes from subsidies, 1/3 comes from bank loans, and 1/3 comes from members' contributions. But of course, this varies. So the price is a challenge, and one that we observed as well is something that our members in the Netherlands, Energie Samen, call the lack of imagination problem, which is basically that people don't really think that citizens are capable of projects of this size, right? Which is a bit odd to me, because I mean, people built the Large Hadron Collider and the pyramids, so clearly we are we are capable of building great things, but we just need a bit of motivation, right, and help along the way. So the lack of imagination, the financing is an issue, and mobilization, right? Especially at the beginning. I don't know if there are more thoughts on this.
Thank you, Felix. Any other comment from the other speakers? Nicolas?
Yes, also to reflect on that, and sorry for the rough start of the presentation, but in Ready for Heat, we also identified some policy priorities to support actually heating and cooling project, but also involving citizens. What we see is that if there is not a strong support at national or regional level to back up local authorities to develop citizens-led project, that it won't happen. And to do so, municipalities usually lack resources, staff, skill, technical support. So it's really important also to set up a strong supportive framework at national level to support municipalities to take the time to involve citizens, because it doesn't happen just by magic. You also need to plan for it and to give the proper resources. It's not easy to do, but it's really worth it. So I think it's also to underline that aspect. And in our project, we underline that as a priority as well. And we hope that in the future, when member states are planning for their heating and cooling policy, they involve more municipalities in the process and in the discussion. And when municipalities have to draft their own heating and cooling plans, for example, it's also important that in that stage, when they do the mapping of the heat potential, for example, they also involve citizens. And that's what I mentioned, for example, in Rotterdam with the neighborhood approach. When we bring all stakeholders around the table, like also they did in Valencia with the energy community, it's really important. But you need to give resources to municipalities. I think it's really important.
Thank you, Nicolas. Next question. This is for Anne-Marie and for Rania. Could you specify how did you obtain the initial funding necessary for your projects? What is the allocation of public and private funding, including citizen contributions? Rania, do you want to start maybe?
Yes. The 50% was from member fees, and the other 50% from it was from a leader project, and we have a cooperative bank as well that helps to expand our activities. Please, Anne-Marie, if you.
Oh. I was waiting if you were finished. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, of course, for the hackathon, it was just money from the municipality, so that was not really big amounts of money needed for the pilots. Of course, they will go from the initiative phase to more the development phase, and then you quite quickly talk about more to €1 million. It gets to high amounts of money quite fast in heating projects. So then we have to look at banks, investors, also the regional, more government money, funds. So then the money scraping begins. There's not really one way of doing it, but I hear, especially of course the citizens who have more money to spend, they are willing to also invest, and I think if there are people that are able to invest, that might be a good way to have a bit of ownership and to see if we can in some way organize that form of ownership, not only big investors but also citizens that invest small amounts of money, which also happens of course in electricity and in durable resources, and see how we can develop this also for heating. So we are looking into that possibility, if that's also possible. And yeah.
Thank you both. Indeed, money sometimes it's an issue, and it's often a bigger issue for district heating and cooling project, because there you really have to build a lot of infrastructure. Here we have again a question related to financing, and so we are talking about a new cooperative that would like to work on heat sharing with an application of solar district heating, but they would need the financial resources to access the techno-economic feasibility. We are just participating to the European City Facility, but for social housing refurbishment, are there any other supports on this field? And here the question is, Felix, do you want to talk about the European Energy Community Facility? This is my question in addition to the participant question.
Sure, absolutely. I have a colleague, Sophia, that is working on, like Sarah said, on the European Energy Communities Facility, where they help precisely with this. So I mean, I don't want to speak too long, so just to say that it might be a good idea to get in touch with my colleague Sophia, and with the facility. I'll leave the email in the chat.
And the Energy Community Facility is a project that RescoPU is coordinating, Energy Cities is also a partner in this project, and next year they will launch the first call. And the facility, this facility does exactly the same job that the city facility is doing, but for energy communities. So feasibility studies is if you need money for a feasibility study to develop your investment plan, that's what you need to monitor, the calls from the European Energy Community Facility. And yes, you will be able also to get in touch with Felix colleagues if you want to learn more. Next question. While we are all convinced that energy communities are a good tool to alleviate energy poverty, how do you reach out to this public as they worry their worries are nowhere near the concept of energy transition and more on how to pay bills? So here the question is, how do you involve energy poor households in energy communities? Who wants to take it? Yes, Felix. Oh, and then Anne-Marie.
But please, Anne-Marie, if you want to go first. All right. Yeah, that's a good one, and one that is very important, I think, because I mean, at the end of the day, research has shown. Oh, my hand is still raised. Research has shown that energy communities that are more, or companies for that matter, that are more inclusive perform better, right? So I mean, you should try to have inclusivity in every decision that you have, and that includes gender inclusivity, ethnic inclusivity, right? People from different backgrounds in general. So for vulnerable people, for heating, I'm unsure, but I know that for electricity, there's an energy community in Belgium called Payo Power, and they had this very weird-looking van. That I mean, you see it in the street and you will remember it. That's for sure. So essentially, they had this weird-looking van that they drove to vulnerable neighborhoods, right? And of course, the van doesn't have messages that say "poor people come in." But it talked about what you were saying in the question, right? So what's said was, do you want to save energy on bills, right? So try to take away the stigma, right, that people are facing, especially vulnerable or people in vulnerable situations. It's important to take away the stigma in the messaging that you do. And to reach out to them directly. So then this van was just helping them, it was telling them, well, you have this financing if you want to do this, if you want to do renovation, this, that, and that. So it was a bit of a mobile one-stop shop.
Thank you, Felix. And Marie, you want to go next?
Yeah, thank you. I think for the energy communities here, they will try to find a cooperation with the social organizations, the organizations in their area that are also already involved in the more vulnerable target groups, and they will so that they know the entrance, and they have the key persons and the networks, so they try to set up a cooperation with that organizations to reach those groups. That's and I think as a municipality and in Utrecht, an energy community that we aim for will be a cooperation between civil cooperation and the municipality. So then we together go to the social organizations and to see who can play which role in reaching which target group in the heat transition.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. Rania, you raised your hands. Ah, okay. Yes, I saw your hands raised before, and then I saw it disappearing.
Yes, I take it down for Anne-Marie to finish what she wants to say. We as an energy community, we provide free pellets to the municipality structures for vulnerable households, and we reduced the price for our pellets as fuels for our members in case to
yeah, so basically in your case Yeah, you really have a system in place to provide free energy to energy poor households. Yeah.
To support our members.
Yeah. Nicola, you want to go next?
Yes, to answer quickly, I think there are two ways to include actually more vulnerable households. Either you include them in any project you do, but it's not maybe specifically a project targeted to their needs, or you create a project that fits their needs more specifically, and you build the project with those associations representing vulnerable households. And for example, if you look at Valencia that I mentioned, what was interesting is that at the beginning of their own project for the energy community heating, they created a governance structure that goes and outreach to housing association or association working with more vulnerable households, and they include them in the project, but they also target project that will benefit those consumers directly, those citizens directly. There was also another example that I know, Felix, also in Belgium, for example, in Brussels, with Sunsud, for example, they did a community energy in social housing, for example, so directly working to benefit the most vulnerable people, and that's the best way to convince people that it works and that it's a project for them as well. And if they benefit from it, they will more likely be involved in the project also.
Thank you, Nicola. And if you're interested in learning more about the activity just mentioned by Nicola, the one where Valencia is involved, you should check the website of this project called Power Up, which is really aimed at including energy poor households in the energy transition. So I will share the link in the chat in a moment, and you will be able to see what different cities in Europe are doing to develop energy providers with the needs of energy poor households in mind. Okay. Another question. Do district heating projects face not in my backyard opposition? If so, how does an energy community engage and convince the unconvinced? Who wants to take it? Yes, Marie.
The situation in the Netherlands is that the natural gas will disappear. So we will say in 1930-35 it will go. So you will have to have an alternative. So there will be people that say, well, I just want my own individual solution, and that's okay, of course, if it's durable enough. But if you aim for a collective system, it's not good for the affordability of the collective system if a lot of people do individual solutions. So it's not so much not in my backyard, but how to get enough information across to people so they know what the consequences are of not choosing a collective system, and what the benefits are for the whole neighborhood to choose the collective system. So that's the main challenge we see for us now. So it's another interesting subject for most people, but it is really important that people are well informed on the consequences of their decisions on the heating system. Yeah, I will stop here.
Thank you, Marie. Alison.
Yeah, I mean, just building on what Anne-Marie said, I think the question of raising awareness around the co-benefits of district heating, I mean, it is a topic not everyone's familiar with, or what's the implications, but insisting on the co-benefits on air quality, on your economy, on the long-term vision, on energy security. I mean, it's very important to have these awareness campaigns so that people understand what it means to be connected to district heating versus having your own gas boiler. So it is running municipal campaigns or so advocacy groups around around your city to raise that awareness is very important.
Thank you, Alison. Meanwhile, if you check in the chat, we gave the link to the two website of the project that were mentioned before involving energy poor households. Another question, really a lot of questions today, very happy. Are there specific citizen representation organization we could ask for support on how to best engage citizens in heating projects? I guess it will also depend on the country. Maybe Amari, you might want to speak about the Netherlands, and Rania, you might want to speak about Greece. And we can try maybe Felix on Europe.
Here in Greece, we now have a representation organization. It's called DESMI. And if someone is in Greece, they can ask from DESMI or from our energy community how to best engage citizens.
Thank you, Rania. And Mary, what about receiving this kind of support?
Yeah. Yeah, there's a big national cooperative that's called Energie Samen. They're also involved in the Rescope EU. Felix, you probably know them. They have an academy, so they gather all the knowledge that has been and the experience that's been going on in the energy cooperatives. So that's a big source of knowledge, and so for the energy cooperatives in the Netherlands, that's a good source to go to. And yeah, so that's a good start, and also it's a collective search for all of us. There's not one golden egg, not one golden rule, and I think we really have to work together much more as cooperatives and municipalities, because we both have some experience, but it's a new item, it's a new challenge. So yeah, we have to do much more pilots and discovering and hackathoning and do more, get more experience together on this subject. That's what I would like to add.
This is also a very good conclusion as we are approaching the end of this webinar. Overall, yes, indeed, you should consider the National Federation of Energy Cooperatives. They are not in all EU member states, but now almost in every member states we have energy communities. So you should get in touch with the communities in your area. You should get in touch with the municipality, as Amari said, because now there is some knowledge that is relatively common. And in case you should reach out to Rescope EU as well. They are the European Federation. and to us, if you're a municipality, Energy Cities can also help you with that. So please do reach out to us if you're a municipality who wants to get in, to develop collective district heating projects. Now, as I said, we are approaching the end. So I wanted to thank everyone, all the speakers for their contribution, but also all the participants for their time. I hope you found the information shared here useful, and we will share the recording of the webinar, and you will be able to access the presentation in the following weeks. So if you register to this webinar, you will receive it by email. You will have an email from me in the following weeks. Thank you all. And yeah, we hope to see you online or offline soon.